Hello Whovians and welcome to my latest Doctor Who review, where today I review The Mark of the Rani, which is the 139th Doctor Who story and is the third serial of season 22 of Doctor Who, and it stars Colin Baker as the 6th Doctor. The Mark of the Rani, yes, a very interesting story. This is going to be the first story to feature the Rani, and I think the first of two stories, if I'm not mistaken. And basically the plot of this story is as follows. In 19th century England, the 6th Doctor finds himself facing two competing enemies, his old adversary, the Master, and the Rani, another Time Lord with a sinister plan. The local population is turning violent and unpredictable. With a major meeting of the brains of the Industrial Revolution due to happen in the village soon, the Doctor must work out what exactly is causing all the problems. Only the Doctor can stop the Master and the Rani's evil plans. There we go, that's the essential premise of this story. Also, I want to take this moment to also give a quick shout out to Nicola Payne, who lent me the DVD. So thanks very much, Nick. Really much appreciated. So, The Mark of the Rani. Well, this is not a very popular Doctor Who story from what I've heard from some of my friends. But I actually didn't think it was that bad. I mean, it's not great. It's not even really good. It's a very under-average story, but I didn't think it was as bad as I thought it was going to be. So, yeah. I mean, I guess the script itself is pretty poor. I mean, the idea of turning people into trees, I mean, get out of here. It's a little bit silly and quite dumb, to be honest. The character of Luke, who gets turned into a tree and then saves Perry from stepping on the mines, because the Rani lays out like a minefield in the forest, and then if you step on one of the devices, you get turned into a tree. Yeah, it's kind of dumb. It's really stupid. I don't understand all of that, to be honest. But in spite of all that, I actually quite enjoyed this story. I thought it was fun. I mean, the story itself is kind of plodding and kind of boring in places. It's dull, but I did think that when there was action on screen, it was fun. I think this is a fun action romp of a story, but I don't think it's anything more. There's a lot of action, situations, shall we say, in parts 1, when the Doctor and Perry have to fight the villagers, and then the Doctor is wheeled out on his trolley, I guess you could say, when he's strapped up, and Perry has to run after him, and then all the villagers are after him. There's quite a lot of action going on in this story, and there's quite a lot that transpires between the Master, the Rani, and the Doctor, especially towards the end when they're in the mines, which is already good. So I think I was entertained during the story. I was entertained in places, and it was fun in places. And actually, Colin Baker wasn't too bad in this story. Yeah, I didn't think he was too insufferable. I mean, at the beginning, there's still some of that bickering with him and Perry, which, yeah, it's a little bit annoying. As the story goes on, when they get involved in the story, Colin Baker started to actually act a bit like the Doctor. He was more or less in character. Whether it works or not is kind of a personal preference for you all. I thought it was okay. Colin Baker is not my favourite Doctor. Never will he be my favourite, but for what he did okay in this story. He did alright. He's still a bit condescending, and he's still a bit egotistical sometimes, and you can see that Perry is getting frustrated with him at times, and he does interrupt her quite a lot in this story, which does get on my nerves a bit, but that aside, it's a better performance, probably his best performance so far. That may not be much of a compliment to some people, but yeah, I think Colin is getting slightly better. Nicola Bryant as Perry is also very good. I think she's a very great presence in the story. Her costume is very bright and colourful, and I guess kind of out of place, really. But when you stand her next to Colin Baker, it doesn't look too out of place. But with the setting that they're going for, it's slightly overt, shall we say. There's a strong supporting cast in this story. And I think, first of all, to mention the Rani, Kate O'Mara, who plays the Rani. I actually really like her. I think she's really good, and she's quite commanding. She does get tired of the Master's shit, because the Master tries to come in and take control of her plans, and he tries to sabotage her plans, and he sort of manipulates her, basically. She does a good job standing up to him, and actually the design of her TARDIS, I think, is really cool, and at the end climax, where her and the Master are stuck in the TARDIS, and then one of her dinosaur embryos kind of explodes, and we see the dinosaur grow, so we know that they're going to have to fight a dinosaur from inside her own TARDIS, which I think is really interesting, shall we say. Anthony Ainley as the Master is also very good. This is a good performance from him. He's not hamming it up too much, and You know, he has good chemistry with Kate O'Mara on screen. And once again, he's back to his usual manipulative ways. He goes around the village and says the Doctor is this mad inventor, and he actually convinces the villagers to dump the TARDIS in a sinkhole, which is interesting. They managed to recover it, thank God, and the TARDIS manages to go without too much damage, which is surprising. But whatever, it's still a pretty intense ending to part 1 when they do throw the TARDIS down the pit, which I do quite enjoy. That being said, I do have to be honest and say that this 45-minute episode format really doesn't help the story. I think if this story was condensed to maybe 3 25-minute episodes or 4 25-minute episodes, and it would have been better. I just think parts of this story are padded out. I think the beginning of part 2, well, I'd say 3/4 of part 2 of this story are really slow, and it does damage the story. I mean, even then, when the exciting stuff happens in part 2, it kind of falls flat when you realise that the people turn into trees. I mean, that's kind of stupid. So I think part 1 of the story is quite good, and it does set up the story quite well, even if it takes a bit of time to do so. But then part 2, I think, ruins the story. I think half the story is good and half the story isn't, and that's kind of my issue. It's a very strange Doctor Who script. The script is written by Pip and Jane Baker. Doesn't really flow very well, but it's got its entertaining moments. I actually quite enjoyed some of the parts in this story, particularly the action parts mainly. Even if it is action filler, it's still good. The Doctor is obviously here to see George Stevenson, and the actor that plays George Stevenson, Gorn Grainer, is very good. And you can see the delight on Colin Baker's face, how he conveys that across when the Doctor sees him, and that's nice. The other cast, there's Lord Ravensworth, played by Terence Alexander. He's very good. And the moment at the end when he watches the TARDIS go off and he's like, I always thought he was a strange man. Yeah, that's kind of funny. Then you've got a character called Luke Ward, who sadly gets turned into a tree, which is a bit of a shame. He gets quite a lot to do. There's also Jack Ward as well, Peter Childs. He's very good. There's another character called Josh, who I believe is... I think he's one of them, but I'm not entirely sure, as in part of that family. Potentially, I can't remember. He's under the control of the Rani, and it's interesting how she's using these little worms, these little parasites that she's been growing to... she feeds them to people, and they are under her control, which is really kind of freaky in a way, and it really does provide some interesting dilemmas for the Doctor, especially when Perry comes to rescue him, and he says, "Don't touch me. Get the other guy out to safety, or Josh will kill me," which is an interesting moment there. I mean, there are a few more characters, but I'm not going to go too much into it because there's too many. I like the setting of this story, like this sort of little village and this kind of near this industrial town, which is nice. And all of the supporting cast do a great job, and the people that play the villagers are all very good. They can be a bit over the top at times, but they're sort of hell-bent on violence, so I'm not surprised, really. For me, the story is incredibly mixed. I think the score is quite good for the story. The music isn't too bad. The Doctor and Perry are slowly building more of a rapport, even if it is slowly. It's a little bit better than Attack of the Cybermen, I would say. It is a bit better than that. But I can't say this is a classic. It's nowhere near a classic. The ideas in the story are a little stupid with the trees, and I just think it's a little silly in places. But it's, there are some good things in it. There are some action moments which I quite liked, and the Rani is a good character, and it's also nice to have the Master back. So I will say that the Mark of the Rani for me gets a 6 out of 10. I know a couple of my viewers are going to be quite surprised that I've given it that rating, but I'm just being honest. It's just my personal opinion. I just enjoyed it. Well, I enjoyed it somewhat. Mark of the Rani. That's my review of Mark of the Rani. Now, next time is going to be a special review where I review The Two Doctors. Woo! In which we see the return, once again, of Patrick Troughton. Yeah, baby. Yeah. And I'm going to be having a special guest in the next review. My good friend and subscriber, Alan Kalo, is going to be appearing at the beginning of my review of The Two Doctors. So please subscribe to Alan if you haven't already. He reviews Doctor Who as well. He reviews movies. He's going to be appearing in the video. So it's a chance to promote his channel, and it's a chance to welcome a new guest onto my channel, because he's never been on my channel before, although I've known him for years. But anyway, thanks very much for watching, and stay tuned for my review of The Two Doctors. So until next time, I am Mr. TARDIS11. See you soon. Bye for now.